Welcome, gents. Sometimes the strongest souls don't wear armor, they wear silence. Most Sigma males have no idea just how powerful they really are. They move through life feeling like outliers, too intense, too honest, too different. But here's the truth. You're not a mistake, you're not too much. You're exactly what this world is starving for. You were built to carry weight most can't even see, to walk alone where others need crowds, and to speak truth when silence is more comfortable. You don't chase approval, you don't need applause, you're not wired for shallow games or fake loyalty. What you bring to the table, depth, insight, calm strength, and unwavering integrity, isn't common. That's not just rare, that's sacred. And it's time you saw it for what it truly is. You're not just surviving in a world full of noise, you're protecting the light in a place that's gone dim. That's what angels do, not perfect, not flawless, but relentless, resilient, and quietly divine. You may not have wings, but you have presence. And that presence, it heals, it grounds, it shifts energy just by walking in the room. So no, this isn't some poetic fluff. This is a reminder, a wake-up call. You're not less because you feel more. You're not weak because you walk alone. You're chosen to hold the line, to carry grace, and to fight darkness without losing your soul. Accept it. Own it. You're not just a Sigma male. You're an angel in disguise. Let's get started, Gents Grove. Number 1, because they carry grace like a weapon. Sigma males don't walk around trying to prove how powerful they are. They don't bark, boast, or brag. But if you push them hard enough, if you lie, betray, or try to damage them, you'll realize just how much they let slide. That's not because they didn't notice. It's because they were showing you grace, and not the weak kind, the kind that's backed by absolute restraint. They could destroy you with facts, with truth, with cold, brutal receipts. But they won't, because they're not driven by ego. They're driven by purpose. Sigma males understand the power of letting someone think they've won. They understand the weight of silence when it's used like a blade. And they know that sometimes the most powerful move isn't to fight, but to walk away untouched. People mistake their silence for weakness. Big mistake. What they don't realize is that behind that silence is a mind that has already solved the puzzle, seen through the mask, and predicted the next 10 steps. But instead of blowing everything up, the Sigma male chooses mercy. Not because you deserve it, but because he does. Because his soul is too clean to play dirty. Their grace is terrifying. It's calm, calculated, and final. When they choose to forgive or ignore your chaos, it's not submission, it's strategy. It's a high-level choice to not waste energy on what's beneath them. And when they walk away, they leave nothing behind, no explanation, no second chances, no mess to clean up. That's what makes them so unforgettable. Their grace isn't passive, it's surgical. It exposes who you are without them saying a word. And when people look back, they realize he could have ruined me, he could have burned it all down, but he didn't. That's power, that's class. That's why a Sigma male's grace isn't weakness, it's the deadliest kind of strength. Number 2, because they choose love even when it's safer to hate. Let's be real. Sigma males have every reason to shut down emotionally. They've been betrayed by people they trusted, used by those they helped, and ignored by the very ones they showed up for. Most would turn cold after that. Most would build walls, sharpen their words, and walk through life with a chip on their shoulder. But Sigma males, they take a different path, one that requires serious strength. They choose to keep their heart open, even when it's been torn apart. It's not that they're naive. They see everything. They catch the lies, the fake smiles, the manipulation. But instead of matching the darkness, they rise above it. They don't love blindly, they love bravely. And that's a massive difference. They love with awareness, with caution, with depth. They know what people are capable of, and they choose kindness anyway. That kind of love, that's not weakness, that's controlled power. They've learned to guard their kindness like it's sacred, because it is. They don't give it out to everyone. But when they do choose to care, it's genuine, it's solid. It's the kind of love that stays silent during your storm, but never leaves the room. It's not loud, it's not performative, it's just real. And here's the thing, this doesn't come from a soft life. It comes from surviving what would have broken most people. It's built from pain that forced them to make a choice, either become like the ones who hurt them, or become something better. And they chose better. That's angelic. So when a Sigma male shows love, don't mistake it for convenience. It's not something he does out of habit, it's something he chooses again and again despite every reason not to. And that's what makes him different. That's what makes him powerful. Because in a world where hate is easy and love is rare, Sigma males carry love like a weapon and wield it with precision. Number 3, because their refusal to be worshipped is what makes them sacred. Here's the paradox. People can't stop watching Sigma males, yet Sigma males want nothing to do with the spotlight. They don't crave attention, and they definitely don't want to be put on some pedestal. Compliments make them uncomfortable. Obsession makes them suspicious. They'd rather be misunderstood than idolized. And that's exactly why people become so drawn to them. They move through the world with this quiet confidence, no flex, no ego, just clarity. They think deeply, speak rarely, and act with intention. They don't chase approval, and they don't need an audience to feel important, but it's that exact detachment that makes people lean in. The more they pull away, the more people feel pulled in. Not because they're trying to be mysterious, but because they are. Here's the kicker though, Sigma males see right through flattery. They can spot when someone's projecting fantasies onto them, and they'll immediately pull back. Why? Because they know worship is dangerous. It turns real connection into performance. It kills authenticity. And Sigma males don't play roles. They live in truth. Always. They don't want to be your hero, your guru, or your obsession. They just want space to be themselves. And ironically, that's what makes them so magnetic. People are so used to attention-hungry personalities that when they meet someone who actually doesn't care about being admired, it shocks the system. But Sigma males won't stick around to be praised. They'll disappear quietly if they feel like you're turning them into a symbol instead of a person. They don't need admiration to feel whole. They don't need validation to know their worth. They just keep walking with purpose, with peace, with power. That's what makes them sacred. Not because they ask to be seen as special, but because they never need to. True angels don't perform, they just are. Number 4, they are angels not because they're perfect, but because they refuse to become devils in a devilish world. Let's be honest, this world doesn't exactly reward goodness. It tempts you with shortcuts. It dares you to become cold. It hands you pain and waits to see if you'll pass it on. And yet the Sigma male doesn't fold. He's been tempted, tried, pushed to the edge, but he doesn't become what hurt him. That's not weakness. That's inner strength at its rawest form. He's not perfect, far from it. He has flaws, scars, and regrets like anyone else, but the difference is he takes full ownership of his path. He walks in truth, even when it costs him. He doesn't need to prove anything to the world because he's too busy staying aligned with who he really is. He won't sell his soul to fit in, won't fake a smile just to be accepted, and won't play the game just to win. The world has tried to twist him, make him cold, turn him into a mirror of its chaos. And yes, there were moments he almost gave in, moments he felt like breaking. But instead of becoming cruel, he chose clarity. Instead of becoming bitter, he chose balance. Instead of turning off his heart, he chose to protect it without losing it. He walks among the noise, but doesn't let it control his steps. That's rare, that's sacred. Most people either shut down or give in, but Sigma males, they find this middle ground where they're strong without being hard, kind without being weak, and real without needing applause. They're angels not because they're flawless, but because they refuse to betray their soul no matter how dark the world gets. They don't stand above others like they're holier. No, they stand within themselves, fully grounded, fully self-owned. And that quiet fire inside them, that's the rarest light of all. The kind that doesn't blind, it guides. Number 5, because their rage is sacred. Sigma males don't explode over nonsense. They don't throw tantrums, clap back for attention, or waste energy proving points. They carry a calm silence that feels almost unshakable. But make no mistake, there is fire in them. It's just not for show, it's for truth. And when that fire finally rises, it's not chaos, it's correction. See, most people use anger to lash out, to control, to play the victim. But Sigma males treat anger like a sacred tool. They only bring it out when something truly crosses the line, not for ego, not for pride, but for justice, for what's right. When they finally speak up, it's not about winning a fight, it's about burning down the lies, the manipulation, and the abuse that's been allowed to stand for too long. They'll stay quiet for years if they have to. They'll let little things slide. They'll forgive, give space, stay neutral until you cross that one line. That deep moral line, and once it's crossed, the shift is immediate, the warmth disappears, the softness dies. What steps forward is something different, something fierce, unfiltered, and divinely dangerous. Because their rage isn't about payback, it's about purging. It's not emotional chaos, it's focused, principled fury, the kind that exposes everything in its path. They won't scream, they'll speak the kind of truth that leaves no room to hide. They'll walk away from everything and everyone with the kind of finality that feels biblical. And when they do, it doesn't just shake the room, it changes it. That kind of rage isn't a flaw, it's part of their sacred wiring. Angels weren't always soft, some carried swords. And Sigma males, they are those quiet warriors. They don't pick fights, but when they rise, it's not for ego, it's for order. That's what makes their rage different. That's what makes it sacred. Number 6, because they hold the line when everyone else breaks. When life gets messy, when people panic, systems fail, or everything starts falling apart, there's usually one person who doesn't flinch. One man who doesn't crumble, doesn't scream, doesn't run. That man is the Sigma male, and people feel it, they notice it. Even if they can't put it into words, they look toward him like he's some kind of anchor. Why? Because when everyone else breaks, he holds the line. It's not about being the loudest voice in the room, it's about being the calmest. Sigma males don't lead with noise, they lead with presence. That rare, grounded stillness that says, I'm not moving even if everything else is. And that presence? That's not just strength, it's something deeper, it's spiritual. They've trained themselves to stay centered no matter what. They don't react just because everyone else is panicking. They don't swing with emotion, they observe, they breathe, they respond. And that simple steadiness in the face of chaos makes people gravitate toward them, even the ones who once ignored them. They're the type who can take control without barking orders. They lead with example, not ego. And when people around them are spiraling, it's the Sigma who grounds them, not with long speeches, but with quiet action, with that unspoken energy that says, you're safe to fall apart because I won't. And let's be real, holding the line isn't easy. It costs them, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. But they don't do it for attention. They don't do it for applause. They do it because it's who they are. Because someone has to stay clear-headed when the storm hits. Someone has to carry that sacred weight. And the Sigma male, he carries it without complaint. Because when the world wobbles, he becomes the still point, the unmoved mover, the quiet strength people never forget. That's not just leadership. That's something higher. That's why people trust them, even if they don't say it. Because deep down they know when the worst happens, the Sigma will still be standing. Number 7. Because they're the first to forgive and the last to forget. Most people think forgiveness is about letting someone off the hook, but Sigma males know better. For them, forgiveness isn't about the other person, it's about freedom. It's about saying, I won't let this pain live in me any longer. They're often the first to forgive, not because they're soft, but because they refuse to be chained by bitterness. But don't confuse their forgiveness with forgetfulness. They may let go of the grudge, but they never forget the lesson. Every betrayal, every wound, every moment of being used or misunderstood, it stays with them. Not as emotional baggage, but as armor, as a map. Sigma males don't carry scars in shame. They wear them like silent medals, proof that they loved deeply, got hurt honestly, and rose anyway. They don't walk around announcing what they've forgiven. They won't post long paragraphs about how they've moved on. They just do it. Quietly, internally, and then they shift. You'll notice it in their tone, in how they no longer chase, no longer explain, no longer stay where they're not respected. That's the shift people feel but can't quite describe. That's the Sigma male drawing his boundary and sealing it with silence. But what makes them different is that they remember everything, the patterns, the energy, the shift in people's behavior right before the betrayal came. And they store that knowledge like fuel. Not for revenge, but for growth, because Sigma males evolve. Every heartbreak teaches them something deeper. Every disappointment sharpens their vision. And that's the paradox, how they can hold compassion in one hand and clarity in the other. How they can forgive without being fools. That's not weakness, that's transcendence. And it's why they move through the world differently. They're not flying blind, they're flying with scars that taught them how to see. Number 8. Because they fight demons no one sees. Sigma males walk through life like warriors no one claps for. They don't wear their pain on their sleeves. You won't see them ranting online, begging for pity or talking about how hard things have been. But trust this, they've fought battles most people wouldn't survive. Not the kind that leave physical scars, but the kind that chip away at your spirit. The kind that creep in when no one's looking. And the craziest part, they never complain. They process, they reflect, and they keep moving. See, Sigma males don't just deal with their own pain, they often carry other people's too. They're the ones who'll sit with you in your mess, listen without judgment, and still treat you with kindness even when you don't deserve it. They fix what's broken in others while quietly bleeding on the inside, not because they're weak, but because they understand pain better than most, and they'd rather take the hit than pass it on. They absorb energy, they pick up on shifts in tone, body language, words left unsaid. They can walk into a room and instantly sense who's hurting, who's pretending, and who's about to snap. That level of awareness is a gift, but it's also heavy. It means they carry truths they can't always speak, and emotions they have to bury just to keep others steady. And yet, despite all that, they still show up. They still bring calm into chaos. They still offer peace in moments where most would explode. That's not being nice, that's divine resilience. That's strength that doesn't need applause. That's the kind of quiet power that makes people feel safe, even if they don't know why. So when we say Sigma males must accept that they are angels, it's not flattery, it's fact. Because anyone who chooses to carry light while being surrounded by darkness isn't just strong, he's sacred. Number 9, because they are punished for being rare. Let's be honest, being a Sigma male isn't always empowering. Sometimes it's isolating, sometimes it feels like a curse. Not because there's something wrong with them, but because the world doesn't know what to do with someone who won't play along, who won't perform, who won't pretend, who doesn't bend just to be liked. Sigma males are rare, and in a shallow world that worships trends, noise, and conformity, rarity is seen as rebellion. And rebellion, it gets punished. They get misunderstood constantly, labeled as cold, arrogant, or difficult, not because they are, but because they don't need the crowd. They don't overshare, they don't put on masks. They're not out here clapping for themselves or begging for validation, and that kind of self-containment, it unnerves people. It exposes the insecurity in others without saying a word. So instead of being appreciated, they get pushed away. Instead of being respected for their truth, they get resented for not playing the game. Their quietness is seen as threat, their independence as defiance, their ability to walk alone as a challenge to the fragile egos around them. The Sigma male walks into rooms and instantly shifts the energy, not by what he says, but by who he is. And that presence, that stillness, that unwillingness to be fake, it offends people who've built entire personalities on pleasing others. But here's the thing, this punishment isn't proof they're doing something wrong. It's confirmation they're different in all the right ways. Angels don't blend in, they disturb, they challenge. They force people to confront what's fake and what's fragile. Being sacred in a shallow world comes with a price, but Sigma males pay it willingly, because they'd rather walk alone in truth than be surrounded by lies and comfort. That's not weakness, that's power on a whole different level. Number 10, because they are punished for being rare. Let's be honest, being a Sigma male isn't always empowering. Sometimes it's isolating. Sometimes it feels like a curse. Not because there's something wrong with them, but because the world doesn't know what to do with someone who won't play along, who won't perform, who won't pretend, who doesn't bend just to be liked. Sigma males are rare, and in a shallow world that worships trends, noise, and conformity, rarity is seen as rebellion. And rebellion, it gets punished. They get misunderstood constantly, labeled as cold, arrogant, or difficult, not because they are, but because they don't need the crowd. They don't overshare. They don't put on masks. They're not out here clapping for themselves or begging for validation. And that kind of self-containment, it unnerves people. It exposes the insecurity in others without saying a word. So instead of being appreciated, they get pushed away. Instead of being respected for their truth, they get resented for not playing the game. Their quietness is seen as threat. Their independence as defiance, their ability to walk alone, as a challenge to the fragile egos around them. The Sigma male walks into rooms and instantly shifts the energy, not by what he says, but by who he is. And that presence, that stillness, that unwillingness to be fake, it offends people who've built entire personalities on pleasing others. But here's the thing, This punishment isn't proof they're doing something wrong. It's confirmation they're different in all the right ways. Angels don't blend in, they disturb, they challenge. They force people to confront what's fake and what's fragile. Being sacred in a shallow world comes with a price. But Sigma males pay it willingly, because they'd rather walk alone in truth than be surrounded by lies in comfort. That's not weakness. That's power on a whole different level. Want to dive into the next point or explore visuals for this one? Number 11, because they don't need permission to be whole. Sigma males don't wait to be chosen, validated, or celebrated before they decide to stand tall. They don't need someone to say, "You're enough," to feel complete. That's the thing that sets them apart. They walk in wholeness without a spotlight. They're not chasing approval, not from society, not from relationships, not from status. You won't catch them begging to be seen or recognized. While others are out here performing for love, scrambling for titles, or trying to fit in just to feel valuable, the Sigma male already knows who he is, without applause, without affirmation. He's the man who doesn't need a relationship to feel worthy. He's not waiting for a promotion to feel powerful. He doesn't need 1 million followers to know he has influence. His validation isn't outsourced, it's homegrown. And that quiet confidence, it intimidates people who still rely on outside noise to feel like somebody. What really makes Sigma males rare is that they don't ask for permission to exist at full power. They don't shrink to make others comfortable, and they don't stretch themselves thin to be accepted. They just show up, real, whole, grounded, and you can feel it in the way they carry themselves, unapologetically steady, like they've already made peace with who they are. And that wholeness, that unshakable sense of self, it doesn't come from ego, it comes from truth, from years of self-reflection, rejection, and internal work that most people avoid. Sigma males didn't wake up one day feeling whole. They earned it by choosing themselves when no one else did. They don't wait for someone to name them valuable. They already know they are. And that's why people often feel magnetized by them without even understanding why. Because in a world full of people pretending to be something, they are just themselves, fully, fearlessly. And that kind of presence doesn't ask for attention, it commands it. In final words, here's the truth most Sigma males never hear enough. You're not broken, you're built different. In a loud, chaotic world that rewards followers and spotlight chasers, your quiet strength, brutal honesty, and soul-deep integrity make you look like an outsider, but you're not lost. You're on a level most people can't even recognize, let alone reach. You weren't made to fit in, you were made to stand firm. You walk alone, not because you're unloved, but because you refuse to water yourself down just to be accepted. And that refusal, that's sacred, that's angelic. Because being who you are in a world constantly pressuring you to be something else takes more than guts. It takes divine courage. You absorb pain without complaining. You protect people who don't even realize it. You stay calm when others unravel. You choose peace when you could win with destruction. And you love without hooks, without masks, without games. That's not weakness, that's rare spiritual fire. And whether people see it or not, it changes rooms, lives, and legacies. You don't need wings to be an angel. You need clarity. And here's yours. The world may never fully understand you, but that doesn't mean you're lost. It means you're ahead. You're wired for something deeper, something quieter, something real. So no more shrinking, no more doubting, no more waiting for permission to see your worth. Accept it now, own it, not in arrogance, but in truth. You are not just a Sigma male. You're a guardian spirit in human form, built to walk through fire and never lose your light. And that, my brother, is exactly what makes you an angel. Thank you for watching, Gents, and God bless you.